It was a chilly December evening, and Emily, a 19-year-old college student, was home alone for the weekend. Her parents had gone out of town to attend a family wedding, leaving her in charge of the house. Emily didn't mind being alone. She loved the solitude and was looking forward to a quiet evening of binge-watching her favorite shows. The house was a two-story building on the outskirts of a small town. It was surrounded by thick woods, making it eerily silent at night. Emily wasn't easily scared, but there was something about the stillness of the woods that made her feel uneasy. As the night fell, she locked all the doors and windows, double-checking them for good measure. She made some popcorn, grabbed a blanket, and settled on the couch. The clock on the wall ticked loudly, its sound echoing through the empty house. Around 10 p.m., as Emily was engrossed in her movie, she heard a faint noise. It sounded like a soft tapping coming from the back door. She paused the movie and listened carefully. Tap, tap, tap. Her heart skipped a beat. Emily brushed it off, convincing herself it was just the wind or a tree branch. She resumed watching her movie, but the tapping continued, growing louder and more insistent. Tap, tap, tap. Feeling a surge of courage, Emily got up and walked toward the back door. She turned on the porch light and peered through the window. There was nothing there, just the swaying trees and the darkness of the woods. She let out a nervous laugh and locked the door again, this time pulling the curtains shut. As she walked back to the living room, her phone buzzed. It was a text message from an unknown number. "Why did you lock the door?" Emily froze. Her hands trembled as she read the message again. She quickly typed back, "Who is this?" The reply came instantly. "I'm already inside." Panic set in. Emily grabbed a kitchen knife and frantically looked around the house. She checked every room, every closet, and every corner. The house was empty, or so it seemed. She called her parents, but they didn't answer. Then she dialed 911. The operator assured her that help was on the way and told her to stay on the line. Suddenly, the lights in the house flickered and went out, plunging the house into darkness. Emily screamed, clutching the knife tightly. She could hear faint footsteps now, slow and deliberate, coming from upstairs. "Stay calm," the operator said. "The police are just a few minutes away." Emily couldn't move. Her feet felt rooted to the ground as the footsteps grew louder. Then a shadow appeared at the top of the staircase. It was tall and motionless, staring down at her. "Who are you? What do you want?" Emily shouted, her voice shaking. The figure didn't respond. Instead, it started descending the stairs, one step at a time. Just as the shadow reached the bottom step, red and blue lights flashed outside the house. The sound of sirens filled the air. The figure turned and bolted toward the back door. The police burst in moments later, but the intruder was gone. They searched the woods and found no trace of anyone. When the lights were restored, the police discovered muddy footprints leading from the upstairs bedroom to the living room. Emily's bedroom window was open, the lock broken. The police officer looked at Emily and said, "It looks like they've been watching you for a while. You're lucky you called when you did." Emily moved out of that house a week later, unable to shake the feeling that someone was still watching her. To this day, she refuses to stay home alone, haunted by the memory of that shadowy figure and the message that sent chills down her spine. "I'm already inside." Emily thought she had left the nightmare behind when she moved in with her cousin in the city. She was trying to rebuild her life, but the trauma lingered. Every creak of a floorboard or rustle of wind made her heart race. She even started sleeping with a bat by her bedside. Weeks passed and Emily began to feel somewhat normal again. Her cousin Megan was supportive and often stayed up late with her, watching movies or chatting to keep her mind off things. But the uneasy feeling of being watched never entirely left Emily. One night, Megan had to work late, leaving Emily alone in the apartment for the first time since she had moved in. The thought of being alone made her stomach churn, but she assured herself that the building was secure and that she was safe. Around 11 p.m., as Emily was scrolling through her phone, she received another text from an unknown number. "You moved, but I found you." Her heart stopped. She stared at the screen, hoping it was some cruel joke. She blocked the number and tried to calm herself. It couldn't be him. It had to be someone messing with her. Moments later, there was a knock at the door. Emily froze. No one ever knocked this late. She tiptoed to the peephole and looked out. A delivery man stood there holding a package. "Delivery for Emily," he said, his voice muffled through the door. Emily didn't remember ordering anything, but the man looked harmless. She hesitated, then cracked the door open, keeping the chain latch secured. "I didn't order anything," she said cautiously. The man smiled, "It's a gift from someone. Please sign here." Emily hesitated but signed the paper through the gap. The man handed her the package and walked away without another word. She locked the door and stared at the box. It was small and wrapped in plain brown paper with no return address. Her hands shook as she opened it. Inside was a single Polaroid photo of her sitting on the couch, taken just moments ago. Emily's breath caught in her throat. She dropped the box and ran to the windows, checking the locks. Her phone buzzed again. "Do you like the gift?" Tears streamed down her face as she called Megan, but the call went straight to voicemail. She called the police, but they told her they couldn't do much unless there was an immediate threat. Desperate, Emily decided to wait in the bathroom, the only room without windows. She locked the door and sat on the floor, clutching the bat tightly. Hours passed and the apartment was eerily silent. Emily's exhaustion eventually overtook her fear and she dozed off. She woke up to the sound of her phone buzzing. It was a voicemail from Megan. "Hey, I'm heading home now. I'll be there in 15 minutes. Don't worry, everything's fine." Relieved, Emily opened the bathroom door and stepped out. The apartment was dark, but nothing seemed out of place. She went to the kitchen to grab a glass of water, trying to shake off the lingering fear. As she turned on the light, she saw it. Written on the wall in what looked like red paint were the words, "I'm inside again." Emily screamed and ran out of the apartment barefoot and trembling. She didn't stop until she reached the lobby where she found the night guard. The police arrived shortly after, but once again the intruder was gone. They found no signs of forced entry, but the chilling message on the wall remained. Megan moved out of the apartment with Emily the next day, and they both decided to stay with their parents for a while. But Emily knew one thing for certain. Whoever was stalking her wasn't going to stop. Somewhere out there he was watching, waiting for the next opportunity to strike. And Emily knew she might not be lucky enough to escape a third time. Emily thought she had run far enough to escape her stalker. Living at her parents' house, surrounded by family, brought her some comfort. But deep down, she couldn't shake the feeling that the nightmare wasn't over. Her parents were supportive, but her father, a retired detective, was skeptical. "Emily, these things are often pranks or someone you know messing around," he said. "You're safe here." But Emily wasn't convinced. She started noticing small, unsettling signs. Her bedroom window would be unlocked when she was sure she had locked it. The family dog, Max, would growl at seemingly empty corners of the house. And then there were the footsteps she sometimes heard in the attic above her room, always late at night. One evening, Emily decided to confront her fears. She told her father about the footsteps. He agreed to check the attic, though he assured her it was likely just raccoons or some other animal. Armed with a flashlight and a crowbar, her father climbed the creaky ladder into the attic while Emily and her mother waited below. The attic was a cramped, dusty space filled with old boxes and forgotten belongings. "See? Nothing up here," her father called down after a quick look around. Relieved, Emily started to relax. But as her father descended the ladder, he froze. His flashlight beam landed on something he had missed before, a small pile of candy wrappers and an empty water bottle, hidden behind some boxes. "Emily," he said slowly, "has anyone been storing food up here?" Her heart sank. "No." "Why?" He didn't answer. Instead, he carefully searched the area again and found more unsettling items. A worn blanket, a notebook, and a Polaroid camera. Flipping through the notebook, he found page after page of crude drawings of Emily, some of her sleeping, some of her walking around the house. Her father's face turned pale. "Pack your things. We're leaving tonight." The family packed up quickly and went to stay at a hotel while her father contacted his old police colleagues. They advised him to install security cameras and change all the locks. Over the next few days, the house was thoroughly inspected, but no one found any signs of forced entry or where the stalker might have been hiding. For a week, things seemed to calm down. Emily tried to focus on rebuilding her sense of normalcy, but the unease lingered. Then one night at the hotel, Emily's phone buzzed again. "You can't run forever, Emily." She dropped the phone in horror. Her father immediately called the police, but they couldn't trace the number. It was coming from a burner phone. The next morning, as they prepared to leave the hotel, the front desk clerk handed Emily an envelope. "This was left for you," the clerk said. Inside was a single Polaroid photo of Emily and her family sleeping in the hotel room. On the back was scrawled, "I told you I'm always close." The breaking point. Terrified and desperate, Emily's father reached out to an old friend who worked in private security. He installed motion detectors, alarm systems, and hidden cameras throughout the house. Emily's family returned home, but the atmosphere was tense. A few nights later, the motion detectors triggered an alarm. The family rushed to the monitor, and what they saw sent chills down their spines. A figure in a dark hoodie was standing in the backyard, staring directly at the camera. Emily's father grabbed his gun and ran outside, but the figure had vanished. They reviewed the footage and noticed something even more horrifying. The man had been holding a Polaroid camera. The police launched a full investigation, but no solid leads emerged. Emily's stalker seemed to vanish without a trace, leaving her in a state of constant fear. The final encounter months passed, and Emily tried to move on. But one fateful night, while her parents were out for dinner, Emily was alone again. She sat in the living room, her eyes darting to the security monitor every few minutes. Around midnight, the motion detector went off. Emily grabbed her phone and checked the monitor. The same hooded figure was standing in the hallway inside the house, holding the Polaroid camera. Emily's blood turned cold. She bolted for the front door, but it wouldn't budge. She screamed as the figure started walking toward her, slow and deliberate. In a last act of desperation, Emily grabbed the bat by the door and swung as hard as she could when the figure got close. The hooded man fell to the ground, and Emily ran outside, screaming for help. The police arrived minutes later and arrested the man. To everyone's shock, it was someone Emily knew, her former high school teacher, Mr. Harris. He had become obsessed with her years ago and had been stalking her ever since. Emily moved far away after the incident, changing her name and cutting ties with everyone except her immediate family. She never fully recovered from the trauma, but she found solace in knowing her stalker was finally behind bars. Still, every now and then, when she's alone at night, Emily can't help but feel like someone is watching her,